the designers who create them. So we are in the middle of this cultural shift. It's being driven by youth since at least 2015. The consumers are really ready for it. Is it cut on? This is our two designers of a brand called Too Good. And they said, is the consumers ready for it? Is it cut on a man or is it cut on a woman? Does it really matter that it's a man's or a woman's size? We know that gender-specific clothing is irrelevant for this generation. It's not unisex. A lot of people want to say, is it unisex? No, not really. It's not gender bending, but it's clothing fluid. That's Vanessa Friedman. She's at the New York Times. And that's what she said about it in 2016, when it was really starting to get some traction. So let's see, Walter. And we have who is this all about? Who's driving it and what's going on? Well, we've already talked about it a little bit, but you know, it's really Generation Z and some millennials, but mostly Generation Z. In this Time article, it said fewer than 1% of boomers identify as non-binary, and compared to more than 3% of Generation Z young adults, and 39 million 18 to 26-year-olds in the United States, which is roughly equivalent to the population of Phoenix, Arizona, which is huge, right? The fifth largest city in the country. That's about 2 million of them identified as trans or non-binary. So that's a lot of people. Combined with the more than 2% who are trans, that means 1 out of 18 young adults identified as something other than male or female in 2021 and 2022. So that's fairly recent statistics. And that's from the Time. And then you see the boomers, Generation X, millennials, but Generation Z, which shoots up to 50%, over 50% of acceptance. So it's pretty interesting. Influencers are obviously a really big deal for anything, right? And so who are the influencers that are behind this? Because it's one thing when early adopters start doing something with a lifestyle, but it's another thing when influencers jump on it and they're in the media. So the traction is huge. So, and that's when the big brands start coming in on it. They want it. They want it. So who are the influencers? It started, this is a rapper named Young Thug. And in 2015, he's not gay, but in 2015 he was wearing a Gucci dress. And he said there's no, and then he went on a Calvin Klein video and he said there's no such thing as gender in 2016. In 2016, he also wore this dress on his album cover, and it was a big success. Now, that's a pretty elaborate, amazing-looking dress. I don't think he wears it all the time, okay? But then you have someone like this. This is Jaden Smith. It's Will Smith's son. And Jaden Smith, this is 2016, he was in a Louis Vuitton ad wearing a skirt. Because Jaden Smith really does wear skirts and dresses, and he's not gay. You know, he's not. That's him. He says, I like the way it feels. He is an influencer. His parents are his name, and he's in movies, you know, Karate Kid, all that stuff. That's him. So he's got a big following. So when people like that get behind it, it becomes even bigger, right? These are some women. This is Cara Delevingne in Dior. She's wearing, at the Met Gala, a red tuxedo suit. This is at the wedding of Princess Eugenie. She's wearing a black cutaway tuxedo. She's a beautiful model. There she's wearing some kind of streetwear, which is really androgynous. she's a big influencer. People love models that are successful and beautiful, and people follow them, young people especially. Will's, oh, the Styles, Harry Styles is another one. He loves to dress up. You know, he's very much in the media. That's him with the Gucci designer Alessandro Michele, and this is him with Jared Leto, another one who loves to dress up, right? And he's on the cover of Vogue wearing a dress. Okay, that's British Vogue. But he's a big influencer. He's in the media all the time. So Jonathan W. Anderson, if we go back to Walter's favorite icon designer, Jonathan W. Anderson was recently named creative director and designer for Loewe. Does anybody know what Loewe is? Yes, it's a Chelsea?
Well, it's a French fashion brand, correct?
It's a French fashion brand. It's
known both for their leather goods, their elephant purse, they're iconic.
Known for iconic leather goods. It's actually a Spanish brand that was bought by Louis Vuitton, and it's part of the luxury group LVMH, Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy. So big luxury group, and this is a big brand, and he had his own brand, his own gender fluid brand, and he was fished out and made head designer of this luxury brand. So Loewe, they call it a massive creative change for this brand. It's a brand that has never had clothing, so he's allowed to do something a little bit risky, you know, and he's bringing a lot of success to it. What he says is the world doesn't always embrace individuality or difference, but with fashion, we can open up some of the possibilities, and fashion is about visual identity. When you meet someone, it's a quick registering of confrontation. No, well, yes, somewhat, but it's kind of a storytelling. As he says, within the queer culture, it's a way to project confidence. But I think in all cultures, it's a way to project confidence. What you are is how you dress is what you are. It's an old homily, you know. So being able to dress how you want is about having your own identity and walking out into the world and saying, this is who I am. I'm okay with it. So he also says people in fashion are incredibly liberal. So the industry is made up of, a lot of misfits, and they love creativity. And why not use that creativity to champion things that are different, that can be beautiful? Not just different, but beautiful. So a more diverse representation in fashion can influence the mainstream, and it has the power to break down boundaries, which is another beautiful thing, around how we dress and then to send out the message. There are no rules. So that's kind of a nice way of thinking of it. He says, I also believe that fashion must get to the point where we don't have to talk about what gender anybody is. Why should we? It's prejudicial. So when we just see beauty in people, wouldn't that be nice? So he was one of 35 people who contributed to a book called We Can Do Better Than This. Okay, Walter, would you like to talk about Christopher John Rogers?
Yes, I would. So Christopher John Rogers, next slide, is a designer that I actually went to school with at SCAD. He was at the Savannah campus. Very inspiring, his story. He launched his brand for his senior thesis in 2016. He got major press from partly wearing his fur coat, which was a mix of Blossoming and Ostrich and Tarja, to the Hip Hop Awards for BET. He debuted his first full collection 2 years later, and after that he rose to the top after winning $400,000 from the CFDA Fashion Fund Awards. Due to his bold fashions, he kind of brought a disco fun feel that took in the gender non-binary, but also brought back the dramatics of that time period and fun fabric choices. And in 2019, he was named one of Forbes 30 under 30. Just some of his looks.
Oops.
Bold color use, as you can see, mixing fun textures and prints. We go to the next slide. And then also bringing back the drama.
This is one of his signature design elements, that kind of volume. He's all about volume and color. You notice the vibrant color. Talking about influencers, see who's in here. Upper left hand is Lady Gaga. The upper right hand is Beyonce. That's a Vogue cover. More influencers.
We have Lil Nas X as well. Lizzo, Tracy Ellis Ross, Rihanna, Michelle Obama.
Also Kamala Harris and Zendaya. And
He's also made some iconic pieces for E.J. Johnson as well, Magic Johnson's child. So I think they're non-binary now, I believe. So this is a designer that's very near and dear to my heart. We also are cheerleader teammates. They go by Gianna Amore, and they are trans, non-binary, agender, as they told me in a recent interview I did with them. And their brand is Utopia. Their designer name is Utopia Baby. And they specialize in intimate apparel in school when they went to FIT. And they really want to flip such a gender-specific and gender-heavy category of fashion, lingerie and intimates, into something that can be more inclusive to people that are not on the binary while incorporating streetwear. Their aesthetic is very graphic, maximal, and extravagant, and it incorporates tailoring, embroidery, color, fun, freedom of expression. Everybody's included. It's a